All right, we're on page 2 of the study guide. So for the first several questions on this page, it says, in the following questions, circle all of the quadrilaterals for which the statement is true, and then you have an example. So the example, both pair of opposite sides are parallel. And since that is true for all parallelograms, that's why I circled all of the parallelograms. All right, so let's look at number 13. All sides are congruent. That is only true when we are talking about a rhombus or a square. And so remember, that's really the definition of a rhombus. And then a square is both a rhombus and a rectangle. Number 14 has exactly one pair of one pair of opposite congruent angles. All right, so we know all of our parallelograms have two pair of opposite congruent angles. So we could rule all of those out. One pair of opposite congruent angles is going to be a kite. So remember, when you're looking at that kite shape, oops, it's hard to draw a kite. Those are your two opposite congruent angles. And then an isosceles trapezoid has consecutive congruent angles, not opposite. All right. Number 15, diagonals are congruent. There are three shapes where that happens. There's the rectangle, and then remember, a square is a type of rectangle. So anytime we circle rectangle, it'll be true of the square. And then that also happens in our isosceles trapezoid. So rectangle, square, and isosceles trapezoid for number 15 rather. All right, 16, exactly one pair of opposite sides are parallel. So one pair of opposite sides can't be a parallelogram. A kite has no parallel opposite sides, so that's going to be our trapezoids. Both the isosceles and the regular trapezoid have one pair of opposite parallel sides. All right, so 17, consecutive angles are always supplementary. So not can be supplementary, but are always supplementary. So that's going to be all of our parallelograms. All right. Now, you might be thinking about the trapezoid, but if you think about a trapezoid, it has pairs of consecutive angles that are supplementary, but not all four going all the way around. So that's why we wouldn't circle any of our trapezoids for that. All right, number 18, both pairs of opposite angles are always congruent. So number 18, both pairs of opposite angles are always congruent. That's going to be our entire parallelogram family. That is something that is true for all parallelograms. All right, number 19, diagonals bisect each other. That's another thing that is going to be true for all parallelograms. So we will circle all of our parallelograms. As I'm looking on here, one thing that I don't think I saw is that diagonals are perpendicular. So I'm going to just add this in, and I'm going to say for the shapes where diagonals are perpendicular, because that's probably one other thing we should know. That's going to be true for our rhombus, because remember, we get those four congruent right triangles. Therefore, that's also true for our square. And then that's also true for a kite, any type of kite. So I know that's not on your study guide, but I would definitely know that, because it's those right triangles that make solving rhombuses and kites so easy, because we're so good at the Pythagorean theorem. All right, 20 through 23, we're doing always, sometimes, or never. So a rhombus is blank a rectangle. A rhombus is a rectangle. A rhombus is sometimes a rectangle. And when it is, it's called a square. So keep that in mind. A rhombus is a parallelogram. It's always a parallelogram. It is a type of parallelogram. A kite is a parallelogram. This is never true. A kite is a distinct shape. It's a quadrilateral, but it's not a parallelogram. And then a trapezoid is a kite. This is also never true. Trapezoid is its own shape. On that blue tria diagram that I gave you, that's why you have all the parallelograms, then the kites, and then the trapezoids. And then under parallelograms, you have your rectangle, your rhombus, and your square. But that's why they get their own distinct categories. All right, let's move on to the next page of the study guide.